In the earlier classes, I explained about the what is meant by operating system, types of operating system, and operating system services. Now, today's class, I will explain about the system call. What is meant by system call? Before going to the topic, how you will write down a normal function in C, C++ and Java. So it means what happens is whenever you mention the function in any type of C, any type of program, whether it is a C or C++, whatever the thing, first of all you mention the return data type, integer, float or real character. Next we have to write down the function name. Next we have to write down the within a brackets starting brace, we have to write down the what type of variable you pass in that function. Whether it is an integer int a comma int b, it means whatever variable you have to pass that function, that you have to mention in that function. That is the standard format of user defined function. That is called as those are all within the brackets what you are writing, those are all called as a parameters. What type of parameters are passed in that, or what type of variables you have to pass. Whatever you write down in the first beginning of the before write down the function, what you are write down, that is called as a return data type of that particular after execution of that particular function. What is the return data type? Whatever output you are getting, that output will be in that particular format. That you have to mention. Here what happened was, that is the standard notation what you are following up to till today in any language, C or C++ or Java. Now, when you come to the system call, what is meant by system call? It means it will be creating the programming interface to the services provided by the OS. What are all the services provided by the OS? That will be creating the programming interface. For example, what is meant by programming interface? For example, you are saving a file. For example, you write down the one document in Word document. You have to develop the one Word document. First, you have to save the file in that particular computer. On that time, whenever you click on the file, we have to open the save. Then we have to enter the file number. That file will be stored in the whatever the location we have to store. That location we have to store. That type of thing happening in the operating, that is called as one type of services. That services is called as a write. It means what happens that your file will be stored in the secondary storage device or whatever the storage device. But whenever you open the file, that is called as a read. That is a read and write are a service. The one service provided by the operating system. And the next one is typically when you written in a high level language, any language, what happened was you have to create our own program for those ones. You are creating one own program for implement the read, write and execute permissions. Now, here what happened was application programming interface. Here what happened was, what is meant by application programming interface? Now, whenever operating system will be developed, lot of functions will be there. Lot of system defined function inbuilt functions are there. At the same time, whenever installing the software, for example, in your system you are installing the C, C++, Java or Oracle. Anything you have to install. Now, whenever installing, in that also, whatever the software installed, in that also, user-defined functions, user-defined function or inbuilt functions are also there. But they can, whenever the coordination between the operating system files and your software files. Your software files and operating system files creating the services. Both are combinedly we have to creating a services to the user defined program. That creating both are combinedly creating the interfaces. That type of interface is called the application programming interface. One more time I will explain that. You for example, you have the one system. In that system you have the Windows 10 or Windows i3, Windows 10 is there. You install the Oracle software, but in the operating system some system files are there. At the same time in the Oracle also system files and user defined files will be there. But whenever your file will be, for example, you write down the some query, select star from EMP, you write down one query. But whenever select is a system defined word, software defined word in Oracle, it means what happens that whenever select is executing, that related to that particular function will be executed in OS. In that way, coordination must be created in API. That is called the in that way you have to creating the interface. That interface will be executing successfully. It means you have to strong relationship between the operating system files and software related files, product related files. Then automatically every user defined program executed and exact output will be given. That is the fundamental use of application programming interface. And next one is in the most of the APIs application. Now what happens is the application programming interface will be working out all Windows, latest Windows, not previous Windows 95. Windows not applicable for that. From Windows NT software, that API will be implemented by the Microsoft. That whatever the previously that will be there in the command mode, in the Unix that is in the command mode, CUI, command user interface. Now Unix and Linux, everything will be turned to the GUI mode right now. It means what happens, why it will be done, but Linux is a open source. Linux is a open source because the open source is everyone develop the own criteria. Everyone thinking about the customization of things. That's why the API interface every time we have to change depending upon the new operating systems. Whenever you implement the new operating system, API system calls automatically change. Some option whenever in the operating system some profits or some programs are implemented, automatically API services also increases. At the same on that particular time, that will be compatible for the all the whatever the software you have to use, whatever the software you have to install, try to install on the operating system, that will be compatible for the operating system resources. In that way you have to call it as a, in that way you have to develop the system calls. Whether it is a Linux or Unix or Windows, anything 32-bit or the 64-bit, 128-bit, the application programming interface is a common notation nowadays. Because what happened was, because if you not there, the customization things are unable to do that. Customization of things are unable to do that. Whatever the they providing source, you have used those resources, but customizing things are not providing. You during the application program interface, you have to do that. Customizing the things also, you have to possibility is there. That's why system calls is one of the most important thing. No, most important system call is just like a system function. Just like a already defined function in a already system function means a defined function in the program or operating system. Already defined whenever they develop the compiler or whenever they develop the editor, whenever they develop the operating system, the one function is already inbuilt. That type of function is called as a system call. For example, if you take everyone knows the MS Office. For example, you have to when you open the already one file is there in your secondary storage device, you have to open that particular file, you update that. There is a two function. Open means that is already inbuilt. Open, when you click on open means if you showing in the menu bar means already inbuilt, that will be open, that program is executed, open program is executed. Whenever saving, after saving, save program is automatic, that is already inbuilt system call in the operating system. That is just one small example. And one more here, I give in this PPT I will give the one example for copying the file from one location to another location. Now copying a file means you have to, first of all you select the file. If you have the multiple files, you have to use the shift or control button. Just you select the more than one file. They highlighted. That is also one program, inbuilt program. Once you have to press the control C. Control C means already those files are in the buffer. Those files are in a buffer. Now files are stored in the two places right now. One is a source destination, source file. Whatever the location you have to, in that location files are there. Buffer also, those files are there. Two places that will be stored. Files are stored. Now what happened was, whenever go to the destination location, now we have to type control V, control C, control V. Now that will be, your files will be again stored in the destination folder. It means once you have to store in the destination folder, automatically those files are deleted from the buffer. Now your files are there in the two places, source and destination. If you using the another thing is, that is a copy paste. Now we have to cut paste. Another thing is cut paste. What happened was, whenever you press the control X, now whenever the files will be stored in the source folder and buffer. Now whenever come to the destination folder, we have to type control V. Automatically the files will be deleted from the buffer as well as source folder also automatically delete those files. That is that type of criteria will be there, that type of services provided by the operating system. Now here what happened was, this is the procedure what you are given. Source file, acquiring the input file name, and whatever the file copied from source to destination, we have to see that. Write a prompt addressing. This is showing at the command prompt. Accept the input means we have to see the control C, and acquiring the output file name. What is the location of output file name? We have to see that. Go to the prompt, we have to open the command prompt, go to that through command prompt, go to that location and open the input file, and if the file does not exist, okay, leave that. If the file is exist, then copy the file. That type of things we have to give in the sequence of system calls executing whenever you you are copying the content of one file to another file. This is the best example for the system call. And the next one is how you are implementing the system call, why you have to implement the system call. Why you have to implement, what is the need of system call basically? Whenever, what is the need first of all? First point is, whenever you develop the one function, one method that is not independent. That is the first point. Independent means in the any IT industry, all the functions are associated with a number of other functions. It means all whatever you function on, that must be in the dependent mode. That must be in the dependent mode. N number of people accessing your method, they are using that method. One example I will give that. For example, you are changing the desktop wallpaper. There is a two types of thing. One is a manual, next one is automation. Whenever you open change the wallpaper in the desktop, first you have to press the apply button. After that you have to press the apply. After that means apply button is disabled. Then you have to press the OK button. Next, that is a manual. First you have to press the apply button. Next you have to use the OK button. That is you considered about the both are individual programs. Now automation right now. Now everyone think about the automation right now. Now directly if you press the OK button, what happened was internally first executing the apply button. Now we have to execute that is a automation. It means what is the meaning for that is when the backside if you write down the code, the apply button will be in the form of two modes in the development. What is the mode? Individually it successfully executed. If you depend, when you call the OK button, when you develop the OK button, whatever the methodology you developed, according to that one you have to develop. Whenever you call the OK button, first you press the directly OK button means first you disable this one. Disable means OK, whenever you press the OK button, call function you have to call, this function you have to call here. This function, whatever the apply function you have to call here, first execute that one, then you have to execute OK button. And whenever you write down the apply button function, it will be two ways to implement. First one is a dependent, next one is a independent. That is that type of interface you have to create. That is possible in API, application programming interface. That is the first point. And the next point is, whenever in the Unix operating system, all the functions in the stored, all the user defined function or system defined function will be stored in the under the kernel. Whenever you call the system defined function or user defined function, it will be support. Without kernel support, it will be not executed successfully. With the kernel support, it will be executing successfully and store whatever the location they have to give. Unix not just like a Windows. Unix whenever installing the operating system, you have to give some location. All the user files stored in this. Every file will automatically stored in that place. You are not changing that path. Windows, you have to change the path according to our situation, according to ourselves. But Unix is not like that. Unix or Linux is not like that. And the next one is whenever caller function or called function, there is two types. Caller function or called function ante already called function. Caller function is whenever your caller function already you try to call now, it means that will be independent or dependent. If it is depending on another function, automatically that particular system call executed in the operating system. That is the mandatory. And the next one is whenever you are using that, if you obey the API, automatically the failure of operating system can occur. If you not obey the rules of API, automatically some OS system calls unable to execute in a proper way. Now in every operating system, every product, now API implemented. Why? Because it is compatible for the number of products. One small example I will give that. Olden days, for whenever you buy the pen drive, we have to give the CD, along with that they give the CD. Now if you buy the pen drive right now, they will not provide any CD that is compatible for all the versions in the market, whether it is Unix or Linux Windows. That type of interface created right now because everybody using the pen drive. If you creating like that, automatically the users of operating system can be increased. That is a major goal. That's why if you obey the API rules, it's good. All the system call execute successfully. If you not, then failure can occur. Now, some of the APIs will be executed hidden programs also. What is meant by hidden programs? Background working. Front end, there is whenever in the Unix operating, there is a foreground and background. Two processors are executed. One is a foreground, one is a back. Foreground means understandable by the user. Kantik kanapadedi foreground ante. If you understand that, you have to see with your eyes. Background means unable to identify. Still background process will be going on. Front end you have to work in a normal way. But whenever you work with a background, it's a very, very difficult task to identify the errors. But still there is a lot of profits are there for background process. Because your work, first of all, you save the time. Effectiveness will be there. That's why in the first Unix operating system developed hidden foreground and background process. And the next one is whenever the managed by the runtime processing, that is automatic processing. Runtime is that automatic processing. Automatic process also possible in an operating system. Due to system calls, these are all the profits of why you have to implement means. These are all the things you have to do, the profits of system calls, or why you have to implement the system calls. These are all the points are there. And next one is what is the relationship between the API system call and OS relationship. Whenever system call interface will be there, whenever operating system interface will be there, there is a two types of mode. One is the user mode, one is the kernel mode. This is the operating system, this is the user defined mode. There is a two types of interfaces they have to create. One is a user mode interface, next one the kernel mode interface. Now, whenever user can give some command, open command they have to give. Open command you have to give, that will be executed first in a system call interface, then that will be after that will be executed user interface. Beginning itself I told, whenever you develop the click on open in the MS Office, open inbuilt function is there in the Microsoft. Whenever that will be executed, that will be compatible for the operating system files. Open is an inbuilt file in a MS Office. That that related file will be in the operating system services. Both are executed simultaneously, both are in the compatible mode, then only your file will be open in that particular system. That coordination between the operating system files and your product, whether it is Microsoft or Oracle, whatever the thing, both are simultaneously executed, both will be concatenating, or both are in the executing simultaneously, means both are executing in the possible manner. Now, whenever this operation will be done in the user mode, now when you come for the kernel mode, how it will be executed? Now what happened was, first you have to check the system call, next you have to use the user application. Both the things are matched, then you have to come to the kernel mode. Open system call will be executed. That will be there in the kernel mode. Kernel mode is Unix, whether it is a user defined file, whether it is a system defined file, everything working under the kernel mode, not like a Windows. That open system call is executed, then return the output value for system interface. Then you have to, in the output screen, we have to representing the output. That is the relationship between the API and OS services. Now, when you come to the next point, what is the system call parameter passing? Already first itself I told, in the beginning, first slide itself, whenever you mention the system call, what are the parameters you have to require? Both the parameters whatever you declared in the main function, that the duplicate parameters are declared in the function, both data type must be equal. Then only parameter passing techniques are executed, otherwise it's not executed. For example, you were given the float in the main, in a main, if you given the integer, it's not executed. That is a major impact. Now simple identity must be required for each operating system, each system call operating system. For identification purpose, for identity, the identity means you have to use the system defined calls. For example, you write down some program in C. Now include iostream.h, that is already system defined. That is also one system call. Exact type will be declared in the main function and function body. Then only this system call parameter passing is successfully executed. Now, whenever in OS there is three types of general methods are there. First one is a simple parameter passing, that will be stored in the registers. The data will be stored in the registers. How it will be happening? When the call by value and call by, already you completed the call by value and call by reference. Now, here what happened, the permanent variables are whatever the variables you declared in the main function, those are all called as a permanent variables. Output there, in the output function, they are showing those variables only, not whatever the declared in the function body, they are not showing output. It means those are all called as the temporary variable. Those are all called as stored in a buffer, or those are all called stored in a register. It means whatever the variable declared in the function body, those variables must be declared in the register, must be stored in the register. And the second point is, whenever parameter stored in a block, we have to pass the address of the particular variable. Whenever you are stored in the register, whenever stored in the buffer, you have to find out the address of that primary location. Without finding the address, you are unable to identify that variable. So first one is that whatever the variable, pass the variables in register. Second one is you have to find out the address. Next one is how the operations will be done. Using the stack, we have to done operation. For example, C is equal to A plus, first you have to send A. Next you have to, whether it is an infix notation, you have to use the A plus B. Whether it is a postfix, A, B plus, prefix plus A, B. You have to send a card. First, in the push, you have to, in the memory location, first you have to send A. Next you have to send plus. Next you have to send B. Next, assigning a value is equal to C is equal to next C. Then C will be representing in the output. That is the notation. That is the simplest methods you have to follow in the operating. Every time you have to use the stacks. Last in, first out. That is the simple method you have to follow. And the next one is, whenever this is the diagrammatical representation of parameter passing via table. Now x is a parameter to call. X system call 13, that is system call number 13, system call 13, that is called as one number or system call name. Whenever load the address of x, load the address of x, that will be stored in the register. That is user defined program. Now in the system defined program, what happened was, already operating system files, whenever x is loaded, we have to find out operating system, both the programs are matched or not. Both the programs are executed in the synchronization manner or not. It means both the programs are matched, linked with the interface or not. Then if it is okay, then the value will be stored in the register, the process will be there, then you have to come to this one. This is the actual implementation whenever you write down the C program. Whenever you write down the anytime, not a C program or C++ or Java, anything. That is the simplest method. Beginning itself, I mentioned that first point is system call means whenever operating system has some system calls, whatever the product, for example, you install the product of Oracle or C++, both having the inbuilt functions. Whenever installing the Oracle in a Windows NT or Windows 10, it is compatible to particular version, means all the system calls of the operating system, system calls of your product, both are executed synchronization way. In that way, if you are executing your product or in the product you write down some user programs, those are all successfully executed. Next one is types of system calls. Now, whenever there is a related to the types of, there is a lot of system calls will be there. For example, one is the process control, processing how the processing the data. First of all, creating the process, termination of process. Next one is end and abort. Next one is load and execute. Get the process attribute, set the process attribute, read, write and execute permissions. You have to see that. And the next one is waiting time, signal, event, allocation of memory, deallocation of memory, jumping, everything will be related, debugger, setup and everything. Now, whenever you go into the file management, file means creating a file, deleting a file, editing a file, copy a file, these are all called as a type of system calls. Open, close, write, read, attributes, device management, request for a new device, adding a new device and releasing a device, read and write reposition, these are all called as a device. Protection, how to give the protection to the give the permissions, access permissions to particular service, or particular product, any denial of service of particular accessing, particular user, these are all the things you have to see in the production. Now, whenever you are going the Windows and system calls, these are all the common things. Creating a process, exiting a process. This is a process management, file management, device management, information management, communication, production. These are all already you are seeing that these are all the things you have to know that. Creating a process means, what is the creating a process? Malloc. Whenever you implement the stack and queue, you are using the malloc, creating a process. Deleting a process, delete process name. These are all the things we have to use in the Windows and Linux. And this is the end of the session.